Hey guys, Engineer Kaz is back and we will continue our series of discussion in Calculus 1. And before we proceed on our topic for today, pakikit naman yung like button dyan, and then can you share na din this video, especially to those first year engineering students. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's start our discussion. Okay, so for today's topic, we will be talking about the differentiation properties, rules, and formulas. So this is very important in dealing problems involving derivative. Okay? So let's start with the first differentiation properties. So the first one states that the first derivative of the function f of x plus or minus g of x is equal to the first derivative of f of x plus or minus the first derivative of g of x. So ano ba ibig sabihin ng properties na ito? Simple lang naman. Let's have an example. Say for example, we wanted to calculate the first derivative of the function f of x is equal to 15 times x raised to the power of 100 minus 3 times x raised to the power of 12 plus 5x. So the property states that we can derive them, or we can derive a polynomial function separately. Ito ang ibig sabihin ng properties nito. So in this case, we can do them separately. So the first derivative of this function is similar as the first derivative of 5x raised to the power of 10 minus the first derivative of 3x raised to the power of 12 plus the first derivative of the function 5 of x. So ito lang ang ibig sabihin ng properties. Take note of these properties in differentiation. So we have the second property, states that c times the function f of x, its first derivative is equal to c times the first derivative of the function f of x, or this is just a similar notation or another way of writing this function. So take note, c is any constant number. So anong ibig sabihin ng properties na ito? Simple lang. Say for example, we have the function 5x is equal to 5x squared. So in this case, according to the second property of differentiation, any constant can be factored out. So we don't consider it in the differentiation just like this one. We factor out this constant number 5 and then we simply derive the one with the variable, or yes, the variable. Okay? So ito ang ibig sabihin ng properties na ito. You can factor out any constant. Alright, so let's proceed. Now let's have some differentiation rules and formulas. So we have actually four very important, or the four major or four main rule and formulas in differentiation. So we have the first one, so the constant rule in differentiation. State that if the function f of x is equal to c, then the first derivative of the function f of x is equal to 0. So ibig sabihin lang ito guys na always the derivative of any constant number is equal to 0. Yes, of course, take note, on our previous discussion, we have mentioned that the first derivative simply means the rate of change. Well, if it's constant, then that means it's not changing anymore. So definitely, its rate of change is 0. Okay? So, gets ba? Gets na yan. Alright, so let's have the second rule about the differentiation of the second rule in differentiation. So we have the power rule, or sometimes this is called as the power formula in differentiation. So the power rule states that if the function f of x is equal to x raised to the power of n, then the first derivative of the function f of x is equal to n times x raised to the power of n minus 1, where n is any number. Okay? So we'll have an example about this one later so that you can further, or you can understand this rule better. So next, let's proceed on the next rule in differentiation. So we have the product rule. So let's say if the function f of x and g of x are both differentiable. So differentiable, I have already mentioned this one and discussed this on our previous topic. So if you missed that topic, so kindly review my previous video regarding this one, what is meant by differentiable. And then, therefore, the derivative of the function f of x times g of x is equal to the first derivative of the function g of x times g of x plus f of x times the first derivative of the function g of x. Then lastly, we have the quotient rule of differentiation. So it states that if the function f of x and g of x are both differentiable, then the derivative of the function f of x over g of x is simply equal to the first derivative of f of x times g of x minus f of x times the first derivative of the function g of x all over g of x raised to the power of 2. Okay? So these four formula are very important in differentiation. Okay? So make sure you are familiar, and if possible, you've memorized these four differentiation rules and formulas. Okay? So let's have now an example para mas maintindihan nyo itong application nitong rules na ito. So let's start with the first example. So we have here, find the first derivative of the function f of x is equal to 15x raised to the power of 100 minus 3x raised to the power of 12 plus 5 times x plus 100. So first step, we can apply the differentiation properties, diba? So as you can see, this is a polynomial function, so we can actually derive them. And at the same time, the second property, factor out natin yung mga constant, and then we'll only consider the variables. So, okay? So in this case, as you can see, this is in the form already x raised to the power of n, diba? Take note, n could be any number. So itong equation na ito is in the form x raised to the power of n. So basically, we can already reduce the power rule or the power formula. So according to this formula, ang gagawin nyo lang, exponent ilagay sa harap times the variable raised to the exponent minus 1. That's the power formula or the power rule. So in this case, lagay lang natin itong 100 sa harap. As you can see here, times x raised to 100 minus 1. So that's the power rule. Okay? Same here. Yung 12, lagay dito. Then raised to the power of 12 minus 1. And then yung sa x, take note. X, or that's similar to x raised to the power of 1, diba? So x raised to the power of 1. So lagay natin yung 1 sa harap. X raised to the power of 1 minus 1. And then this one, the derivative of a constant according to the constant rule. This is always equal to 0. Okay, excellent. So now let's simplify this one. So 15 times 100, that is equal to 1,500. And then x raised to the power of 100 minus 1, that's x raised to the power of 9. And then 3 times 12, and that is equal to 36. Then x raised to the power of 12 minus 1, so that's x raised to the power of 11. And then 5 times 1 times x raised to the power of 0. So take note, any number raised to the power of 0 is always equal to 1. So that means that is equal to 5 times 1. And then just a shortcut lang din, if you encountered derivative of a constant times a single variable, that is always equal to the constant. Okay? So as you can see here, this is just the detailed calculation on why is that the first derivative of any constant times a single variable is always equal to the constant. Okay? Alright, so therefore, the derivative of this function is equal to this expression. Okay? Next, let's have another example. Say for example, we wanted to calculate the first derivative of the function y is equal to x raised to the power of 2/3 times the quantity 2x minus x squared. So in solving this one, we have multiple ways. So first one is we can actually expand this one, distribute this in the function, and then evaluate each function using the differentiation properties. But in this case, I'll be using the product rule or the product formula. So take note, the product formula is the derivative of the function g of f of x times g of x is equal to this expression. So let's say that the function f of x, ito yung f of x, x raised to the power of 2/3. And itong quantity na to, let's represent that as the function g of x. Okay? So the derivative states that f prime of x. So the first derivative of the function of x. So ito yan siya. So first derivative, this one, using the power rule. So we put the exponent in front, times x raised to this exponent minus 1. So 2/3 minus 1 is simply negative 1/3. Tapos kopyahin lang natin itong g of x, as you can see here, diba? Then next, plus f of x. So kopyahin natin itong f of x, you can see, times the derivative of the function g of x. So we derive this one. So deriving this one, so we have the derivative of 2x is simply 2. Minus ito naman, write 2 in front, x raised to the power of 2 minus 1 is simply equal to 2. Okay? So it's nice and easy.
Wow.
So in this case, this is actually already a correct answer. But if you wanted to further simplify our answer, we can combine like terms and then reduce our equation into this form. But they are actually equal or the same. Okay? So let's have another example where we apply the quotient rule or the quotient formula. So as you can see here, the quotient formula states that the derivative of the function f of x divided by the function g of x is equal to this expression. So let's say 3z plus 9 corresponds to the function f of x and 2 minus z is the function g of x. So using this formula, we will have this expression. Diba? So the first derivative of the function f of x. So this is derivative of 3z is simply 3. Derivative of 9 is 0. So therefore, the derivative of this function is simply 3. So we have this one, 3. Kopyahin lang natin yung function g of x, which is ito. So yan, kopyahin lang yan dyan. Then the formula, minus f of x. So f of x, ito yan siya. Kopyahin nyo lang yan. So as you can see, yan, kopyahin lang natin. Then times the derivative of the function g of x. So derivative nito. Derivative of 2 is 0. Derivative of negative z is simply negative 1. As you can see here. So that's the derivative of the function g of x. And then all over the function g of x quantity squared. So ito yun siya. All over the function g quantity squared. So this is already the correct answer, but if we wanted to further simplify this equation, combine like terms, we can further simplify this into this form. Nice and easy. So I guess that's all for today, and on our next topic, we will discuss more complicated example regarding this one, and we will tackle also the derivative of a function involving trigonometric functions. So hopefully you will be there on my next discussion, and I guess that's all for today, and Engineer Cas will be signing off. Bye bye!